William had always been the kind of guy who dealt with problems head-on. He wasn't one to run from responsibility or avoid hard truths. Growing up in a small town outside Chicago, he was raised with traditional values, hard work, discipline, and loyalty. His father, a retired Marine, believed that character was forged through adversity. So when William enlisted after high school, it wasn't just to serve his country, it was to prove himself. After his military service, he enrolled at a state university to study mechanical engineering. At 19, he was slightly older than most freshmen, but he didn't mind. He took his studies seriously, made good grades, and tried to keep a low profile. He wasn't particularly outgoing, but he had a few close friends, Alex and Slavic, two guys who were always looking for adventure, whether it was camping in the woods, going bowling, or hitting up a downtown club on a Saturday night. It wasn't until college that William started paying real attention to girls, not just as classmates or roommates, but as potential partners. For most of his teenage years, girls had seemed like distant planets orbiting a world he didn't understand. He wasn't shy, exactly, he just never knew what to say. But everything changed when he met Lucy. Lucy was tiny, with freckles across her cheeks and golden curls that bounced when she walked. She laughed easily and could brighten anyone's day. One afternoon in the hallway, while William and another freshman stood lost with their class schedules, Lucy approached them with a grin. "Lost?" she asked, eyes sparkling. They nodded sheepishly. She gave them directions with a wink and left him smiling for the rest of the day. Over the next few months, they grew closer. They'd grab coffee between classes, go out to dinner, and even shared a few late-night walks under the stars. It wasn't deep or dramatic, but it felt real. Then, suddenly Lucy vanished. No calls, no texts, no explanation. One day she was there, the next, gone. William didn't hear from her again until New Year's Eve, when he got a text that read, "Hey, I'm sorry. Sasha came back. My fiancé. I have to leave. Take care." That was it. No apology, no goodbye. Just a message that shattered whatever feelings he thought they had. He spent the next few years focusing on school, burying himself in books and assignments. He dated here and there, nothing serious. He told himself he was fine being alone. But deep down, he wondered if he was afraid to get hurt again. By the time he graduated, William had grown into a tall, handsome man with thick chestnut hair and dark green eyes. He was successful, confident, and respected by his peers. Still, something was missing. Then came Natalie. He saw her the moment he stepped into the club. She stood near the window, bathed in soft light, wearing a sky-blue dress that hugged her figure just right. Her curly golden brown hair framed a face full of warmth and mystery. She was talking to someone, but her eyes caught his and held. For nearly a minute, they stared at each other, the noise and lights of the club fading away. Natalie lowered her lashes and turned away. William hesitated only briefly before walking over. The guy she was with had already moved on. "Hi," he said, trying not to sound nervous. She smiled. "Hi." No awkward pauses. No forced conversation. Just connection. "I'm Natalie," she said, before he even asked. They talked for hours. They laughed. They danced. They walked along the riverfront after closing time, then wandered into a nearby park. Natalie kicked off her heels and walked barefoot, laughing as the grass tickled her toes. William hadn't felt this free since childhood. With Natalie, he didn't have to pretend to be someone else. He could admit his fears, like how much he hated spiders, or how he still sometimes woke up scared from nightmares about bugs crawling on him. In return, Natalie opened up too. She loved reading and painting, and she enjoyed wandering the city at night, watching strangers live their lives. She showed him sketches she kept in her bag, portraits of people she found interesting. She also shared her fears. She was terrified of heights and insects. As a child, she fell from a third-floor window and barely survived. That fear stayed with her. Despite all her openness, William noticed she never wanted to take their relationship further. They'd spend nights together, but always separately in the morning. When he suggested moving in together, she always had an excuse. "My mom doesn't want me to move out. The commute would be too far. I'm used to my neighborhood." To William, those excuses sounded hollow. But he respected her boundaries. What he didn't know yet was that Natalie was hiding a secret. One night, after a long week at work, Natalie broke down during a run. "I don't want to end up in a wheelchair at 25, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. William looked confused. "What are you talking about?" She hesitated, then finally spoke. "I have a rare genetic muscle disorder. My grandfather had it. He died before 50. I found out when I was 20. I became a geneticist so I could understand it better. There's no cure." William was stunned. He spent the next few weeks researching the disease online. It was real, and it was progressive. But Natalie seemed healthy. She continued running, swimming, and hiking. William convinced himself the doctors might have been wrong. Maybe she'd be okay. So they moved in together. Everything was perfect, at first. Until 6 months later, when Natalie collapsed in the hallway while hanging a picture. Her legs gave out beneath her. At the hospital, they diagnosed a minor dislocation. But her doctor, a renowned geneticist named Dr. Yuri Gennady, wasn't optimistic. "It started," he told Natalie quietly. "There's no going back." William watched helplessly as Natalie's condition worsened. Within weeks, she struggled to walk. Her mother brought a wheelchair. Unable to cope, William left. 2 years passed. He threw himself into work. He went out with Alex and Slavic every weekend. He avoided thinking about the past. Then he met Kate. Kate worked at a bank downtown. She liked books, jazz music, and indie films, things William loved too. They bonded quickly, spending weekends at bookstores and cozy cafes. Their conversations were easy, meaningful. They married within a year. Life seemed stable. William got promoted. They bought a house on mortgage. But something was missing. They couldn't have kids. Tests confirmed they were both healthy, but nothing worked. William accepted it. Kate wasn't sure how she felt about adoption. Their marriage began to strain. The arguments grew more frequent. The silence louder. That's when Alex invited William out one Saturday night. He arrived with a surprise. "This is Annie," he said, introducing his cousin. "She's visiting from out of town." Annie was 20, a student with blonde hair and striking green eyes. She wore a simple white dress and smiled like sunshine. William was instantly drawn to her. They talked all night, but shared secrets. When the club closed, he offered to drive her home. From that night on, they were inseparable. When Annie told him she had a son, a toddler named Matthew, he didn't hesitate. "I'll love him like my own," he promised. They met Matthew the next week. The boy was adorable, with big brown eyes and a curious smile. William felt something stir inside him, a longing he'd buried years ago. They married quickly. A few weeks later, Annie had to travel for family business. "Can you watch Matt for a couple days?" she asked. "Of course," William said. She dropped Matthew off with a suitcase full of clothes and toys. William assumed she'd call soon. She didn't. Instead, late that evening, the phone rang. "This isn't Annie," the voice said coldly. "This is her sister, Natalie." William froze. "We didn't meet by accident. I asked Alex to introduce us. He's a friend of my brother's. Natalie died last year. Matthew is your son." The words hit like a bomb. "She didn't tell you because she thought she could handle it. But my mom got sick, and I decided to intervene." William's heart pounded. Matthew has the same condition. Symptoms haven't shown yet, but Dr. Yuri wants regular checkups. Also, you're not listed as the father. But as Annie's husband, you can apply for legal guardianship. William sat in stunned silence. "How do I know you're telling the truth?" he finally managed. "You can do a DNA test. I've already filed for divorce. If you fight me, we'll see each other in court." The next day, William contacted a lab. The results came back 3 days later. 99.8% match. Matthew was his son. He and Annie finalized the divorce without a fight. Today, William lives with Matthew in a quiet suburb outside Chicago. He visits Dr. Gennady regularly, monitoring his son's health. He knows the road ahead won't be easy, but he's ready. Sometimes life throws you curveballs. Sometimes, the person you thought was gone forever leaves behind a piece of herself. And sometimes, second chances come wrapped in unexpected packages. William now believes that love doesn't always arrive in the way you expect, but when it does, it's worth fighting for. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Thanks for reading.